Power does not begin in armies, in crowns, or in wealth. It begins in the mind. Every empire that has ever risen, every ruler who has ever commanded millions, every general who has ever conquered, before they held weapons, before they gathered armies, they possessed one thing: a mind that could not be broken. And yet this is where most people fall before they ever rise. They lose the war inside their own skulls long before they step onto the battlefield of life. They crave comfort. They crave validation. They crave to be liked. And these invisible cravings become the chains that bind them, heavier than any iron shackles. Let's be brutally honest. Weakness does not begin in the body. It does not begin with poverty. It does not even begin with failure. Weakness begins with thought. The first defeat is invisible. The need to be approved, the need to be accepted, the desperate hunger for applause. This is the cage that keeps billions of people trapped. Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago. He warned rulers that the greatest danger was not the sword of an enemy, but the weakness of their own mind. Why? Because a weak mind is predictable. A weak mind bends to flattery, collapses under shame, and dances whenever the crowd pulls its strings. Predictable people are easy to control. Predictable rulers fall. Predictable warriors die. But here's the first great shift in mentality. The moment you stop seeking permission to think, to act, to exist, you become dangerous. The moment you kill the craving to be liked, you stop being a puppet and start becoming a master. Think about the world around you. Look at the people scrolling endlessly for likes, refreshing their screens just to see if someone approved of their picture, their words, their identity. They are prisoners staring at the bars of their own cell, never realizing that the door has been open all along. Their lives are dictated by invisible chains, the fear of disapproval, the hunger for applause, the dread of judgment. But approval is not a gift. Approval is a leash. Whoever holds it controls you. If your mood rises and falls with other people's opinions, you have already lost the throne of your own mind. Let me make this even clearer. A man who cannot control his need for approval will never control his destiny. He will always be pulled by the invisible strings of others. And this is why Machiavelli would demand one thing from you above all else. Break the chains of approval. Break them violently. Break them permanently. Do you say what you believe, or do you say what people expect to hear? Do you move when you feel the time is right, or do you wait until someone claps before you act? Every hesitation is another shackle. Every compromise made for the sake of being liked is another chain on your mind. Now imagine what happens when you destroy this weakness. Imagine walking into a room where everyone else is desperate for recognition, desperate for someone to notice them, desperate to be seen, and you stand there, silent, unbothered, needing nothing. Do you realize what that does to people? They sense it instantly. They realize you cannot be bribed with compliments. You cannot be controlled by shame. You are no longer vulnerable to their most common weapons. That is power. That is the first step toward becoming a mentality monster. But I must warn you, this transformation does not come without enemies. People will not celebrate your freedom. They will resent it. Your independence will expose their slavery. They will whisper that you are cold, arrogant, ruthless. And you must smile at their words, because it means you are no longer under their control. Their opinions have become like the wind. You feel them, but they never move you. Machiavelli said it clearly. It is far safer to be feared than to be loved. Love is given freely and withdrawn freely. It is fragile, temporary, and conditional. Fear, however, fear is rooted in respect. And respect, once earned, cannot be taken lightly. This is not about cruelty. It is not about recklessness. It is about building a fortress inside your own mind so strong, so impenetrable that no insult, no rejection, no betrayal can bring it down. And when you do this, when you kill the need to be liked, you begin to shape reality instead of being shaped by it. You stop living like prey, scanning the world for threats, terrified of judgment. Instead, you begin to live like a predator, calm, decisive, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The first battle is not against the world. It is against yourself, against that desperate inner voice that begs for applause, that craves for comfort, that whispers, "What will they think of me?" Crush that voice. Silence it permanently. Because once you win this first battle, once you break the first invisible chains, you will feel something new. A dangerous clarity, a ruthless calm. You will no longer ask, "Do they like me?" You will ask, "What is the next move?" This is the foundation, the beginning, the birth of the monster mentality. And this is only the first step. Most people live like prey. They scan the world for threats. They hesitate before decisions. They ask themselves, "What if I fail? What if someone judges me? What if I lose?" That is the voice of prey. A prey animal survives by blending in, by reacting to danger, by hoping not to be noticed. And that is how most people live their entire lives, hiding in the shadows, hoping the spotlight never falls on them, waiting for someone else to take the risk, to make the move, to open the door. Machiavelli despised this mentality. He knew that people who think like prey will always be ruled, always be exploited, always be controlled. Why? Because a predator does not wait. A predator does not freeze. A predator moves first. So here is the second transformation. Kill the prey mentality inside you. Replace it with the mind of a predator. What does that mean? It does not mean recklessness. It does not mean cruelty. A predator is not a fool charging blindly. A predator is patient. A predator is calculating. A predator studies the field, waits for the weakness, and then moves with precision. When you begin to think like a predator, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" And you start asking, "What happens if I never try? What happens if I let someone weaker take what should have been mine?" That fear, the fear of regret, the fear of wasted opportunity, must drive you more than the fear of failure ever could. Most people overthink, hesitate, wait for the perfect time, and by the time they finally move, the opportunity is gone. The door is closed. The prize has been taken. Machiavelli warned rulers to act decisively when fortune opens a door, not to stand outside debating whether they deserve to enter. So let me ask you, how many doors have you let close because you hesitated? How many chances have you let die because you were waiting for approval, waiting for permission, waiting for certainty? That is prey thinking. To be a predator, you must flip the questions in your head. Instead of, "What if I lose?" ask, "Where is the weakness?" Instead of, "What will people think?" ask, "What advantage can I seize before anyone else notices it?" Every move becomes strategic. Every step becomes calculated. And here's the critical distinction. A predator moves calmly. The lion does not sprint blindly through the field. It stalks, it studies, it waits. And when the strike comes, it is so sudden and so precise that the prey has no chance to react. This is how your mind must work. Not impulsive, not desperate, but disciplined, patient, and lethal when the moment is right. Now apply this mentality to life. In business, most people wait for someone else to lead. They wait for instructions. By the time they move, the leader has already taken the advantage. In relationships, most people wait for someone to give them love, to validate them. By the time they realize they're being used, it's too late. But the predator sets the terms. The predator shapes the field. The predator does not react to the world. The predator decides how the world will react to him. And here's where discipline matters most. If you let anger drive you, if you let desperation control you, you stop being a predator. You go back to prey, chasing instead of choosing. Machiavelli warned, "Fortune favors the bold, but boldness without calculation is suicide." That is why you must train your mind to balance aggression with patience, daring with strategy. Let me give you a vision. Imagine you walk into a negotiation. The prey thinks, what if they don't like me? What if I ask for too much? They shrink, they compromise, they accept crumbs. But the predator? The predator enters calm, controlled, unreadable. He already knows what the other side fears. He already knows what they want. And when the moment comes, he pushes precisely where it hurts. He doesn't beg for approval. He doesn't fear rejection. He seizes the advantage, and the other side doesn't even realize until it's too late. Now let's make it personal. Think about your own life. How many times have you hesitated to speak the truth because you feared judgment? How many times have you delayed a decision because you wanted certainty? How many times have you waited for permission to act? That hesitation is your death. That hesitation is prey mentality. A predator mindset demands that you act before the world forces you to, that you strike when the moment appears, that you refuse to let opportunities slip into someone else's hands. Do not strike every target. Do not chase every opportunity. Only fools do that. But when the right opening appears, you move without hesitation, without apology, without fear. And when you begin to live like this, something shifts. People sense it. They notice the way you move. They notice that while they are busy worrying about being judged, you are already 3 moves ahead. While they are frozen by fear, you are already collecting rewards. This creates an aura, an invisible weight. People feel that you are not like them. They feel that you cannot be rattled, cannot be delayed, cannot be controlled. And they begin to follow your lead. Not because you asked them to, but because predators naturally dominate the field. Here is the secret. Predators do not explain themselves. They do not beg for understanding. They do not justify their ambition. They act, and the world adjusts. From this moment forward, stop living like prey. Stop scanning for threats. Stop asking for permission. Stop waiting for certainty. Kill the prey mentality. Replace it with cold strategy, calm precision, and relentless forward movement. This is the predator's mind, and it is the second step in building the monster mentality. Power is not only about strength, it is also about invisibility. The most dangerous hunter is not the one roaring the loudest. It is the one you do not see until it's already too late. And this is where most people fail. They expose their thoughts. They reveal their intentions. They wear their emotions like a badge. And by doing so, they give their enemies the exact weapons needed to destroy them. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He advised rulers to be like the fox as much as the lion, cunning, unpredictable, capable of disguising their true motives behind a mask. Why? Because when people cannot read you, they cannot control you. So let us talk about psychological disguise, the art of becoming untouchable. First, understand this. People are constantly scanning you. They are reading your words, your tone, your eyes, your body language. They are hunting for clues about what you want, what you fear, what you dream of. And if they discover it, they will use it. This is why emotional exposure is so dangerous. The moment someone knows what triggers you, they own you. The moment someone knows what you crave, they can manipulate you with crumbs. To build a monster mentality, you must learn to master your mask. You must learn to control what others see, and more importantly, what they don't see. Think of a poker player. The amateurs give everything away: shaking hands, nervous laughter, excited eyes. The professionals, stone-faced, unreadable. They reveal nothing. Their opponents waste energy trying to decipher them, and by the time they guess, the hand is already lost. Life is the same. If you let people read you, you have already lost. So how do you build this psychological disguise? Step 1. Control your emotions. Not destroy them. Control them. You may feel rage, but you do not show it. You may feel fear, but your face remains calm. You may feel joy, but you reveal it only when it serves you. This is the discipline Machiavelli admired: the ability to act in ways that advance your position, not in ways that betray your weaknesses. Step 2. Misdirection. Sometimes the best way to hide your intention is not silence, but disguise. You let people think you are weak when you are strong. You let them believe you are distracted when you are watching everything. You let them underestimate you because their arrogance becomes your weapon. Remember, people rarely attack what they do not understand. Mystery is protection. If they cannot pin you down, they hesitate. And hesitation is fatal. Now let us dig deeper. The monster mentality is not about broadcasting strength at all times. That is predictable. That is obvious. Sometimes the monster hides. Sometimes it allows others to believe they are in control, while in reality, every move they make only tightens your grip. This is how psychological disguise works. You reveal fragments, never the full picture. You answer questions with questions, leaving people uncertain. You act friendly, but never so friendly that they know where they stand. You give enough to distract them, while keeping your true thoughts locked inside. When someone tries to read you, they should walk away more confused than when they began. They should feel that something about you cannot be pinned down, cannot be categorized. That sensation of uncertainty is power. Now imagine what happens when you master this. At work, your rivals cannot predict your next move. They underestimate you until your strategy is complete. In relationships, manipulators cannot find your weakness because you do not hand it to them. They grow frustrated, powerless. In life, people approach you carefully, sensing that what they see is only the surface of something much deeper, something they cannot control. Machiavelli called this mastery of appearance. He taught that a ruler must appear virtuous, even when acting ruthlessly behind the mask. The people see kindness, but the ruler holds iron in his hands. This duality, the mask and the reality, is what makes power untouchable. So ask yourself, what mask are you wearing right now? Is it chosen or is it accidental? Do you control what others see, or are you constantly leaking your truth without realizing it? Here is the brutal truth. If you do not build your mask, someone else will tear it off. If you do not control what people see, they will invent their own version of you, and once they define you, they control you. The monster mentality refuses to be defined. The monster is fluid, adaptable, unreadable. The monster speaks when it chooses and remains silent when it chooses. The monster gives away nothing it does not want to give. This is why predators dominate prey, not only through strength, but through deception. The prey never knows where the strike will come from. They live in uncertainty, and that uncertainty paralyzes them. You must become that uncertainty. You must become that unreadable force, the shadow that confuses, the calm face that hides storms, the smile that conceals calculation. People should never feel that they fully understand you. They should never feel that they know your next move. They should never feel that they can predict or manipulate you. Instead, they should feel doubt. Doubt in themselves. Doubt in their strategies. Doubt in their ability to control you. That is psychological disguise. That is the art of becoming untouchable. Master this, and you don't just protect yourself from attack. You make others afraid to even try. Because how do you fight what you cannot read? How do you control what you cannot understand? This is the third step in forging the monster mentality. Not only strength, not only aggression, but invisibility. The ability to hide your weapons until the moment of the strike. Everyone thinks power comes from a title, a job position, a crown, a certificate, a piece of paper that tells the world you are qualified. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Real power does not wait for permission. Real power does not beg for approval. Real power does not need a crown to rule. Look around you. Most people are trapped in the illusion of authority. They believe only the boss has influence, only the king has command, only the chosen few get to shape destiny. And so they wait. They wait for the promotion, for the recognition, for someone else to hand them permission to lead. But the monster mentality does not wait. The monster mentality knows this: power is not given, it is taken. Machiavelli himself lived this truth. He served princes, watched rulers rise and fall, and what he saw was simple. The throne does not create the ruler. The ruler creates the throne. A weak man sitting on gold is still weak. A strong man, even in rags, commands others because his mind is sharper, his presence heavier, his will undeniable. So let me ask you, how many times have you held back because you told yourself, "It's not my role, it's not my turn, I don't have the authority"? That hesitation is slavery. That mindset chains you. Because authority is not handed out. It is imposed. To rule without a crown means this: wherever you are, whatever your position, you behave as if you already lead. Not with arrogance, not with shouting, but with calm decisiveness, with unshakable confidence, with the quiet certainty that others feel in their bones. Think about this. In every group, whether it's a workplace, a family, or a circle of friends, there is always someone people look to, even without titles. The one whose opinion weighs more. The one who seems to steady the room. The one whose silence feels louder than others' words. That is the invisible ruler, the one who governs without permission. And here's the secret. You do not need to announce it. The moment you start saying, "I'm the leader," you have already lost. Real power is silent. Real authority is felt, not declared. Now let's connect this to the monster mentality. If you wait for validation, you are prey. If you wait for a crown, you will die waiting. Instead, you take the crown that does not exist. You create influence where others see none. You establish authority in silence. You make yourself the gravitational center that others orbit around. Machiavelli wrote that people naturally follow strength. They sense it. They feel it. They gravitate toward it even when they cannot explain why. This is why a monster never needs to say, "Follow me." People follow anyway. Because strength is magnetic. Confidence is contagious. Clarity is irresistible. Let me show you how this works. Imagine you are in a meeting at work. Everyone is talking, but no one has direction. Most people sit quietly, waiting for the boss to decide. A monster does not wait. A monster speaks calmly, clearly, with confidence. Here's what we should do. In that moment, without a title, without a crown, you have led. People follow because the vacuum of leadership has been filled, and you filled it. Now imagine in life. Everyone around you is panicking about a crisis. The prey animals shout, cry, blame each other. The monster stays calm. His silence steadies the room. His composure makes others trust him. Without saying a word, he becomes the anchor. He rules, not because someone handed him a crown, but because no one else can carry the weight. This is what it means to rule without a crown. To project stability when others collapse. To take initiative when others wait. To be the center of gravity without asking for it. And let's be clear, this is not about playing hero. This is not about saving everyone. This is about control, about making yourself indispensable, about ensuring that wherever you stand, your presence carries the heaviest weight. But there is danger here. If you reveal too openly that you hunger for power, people will resist you. They will fear you. They will sabotage you. Machiavelli warned of this. That is why the monster rules invisibly. He influences without showing his full hand. He shapes decisions without always being in the spotlight. He pulls strings without everyone seeing the strings. This is power without permission, influence without title, rule without crown. So here is your discipline. Stop waiting for recognition. Stop waiting for validation. Stop telling yourself you are not ready. Leadership is not a certificate. Authority is not a paycheck. A crown on a weak head means nothing. Instead, ask yourself, do I project calm when others panic? Do I speak clearly when others hesitate? Do I make decisions when others freeze? If the answer is yes, you are already leading. You are already ruling. You are already embodying the monster mentality. Understand this. The greatest rulers in history were not always kings. Many started as nobodies, but they behaved like rulers long before they had crowns. They carried themselves with authority, they acted decisively, they influenced others, and eventually, the crown came to them. But even before it did, they were already kings in practice. This is your fourth transformation. Rule without waiting. Influence without needing permission. Carry yourself with the gravity of a leader and watch as the world begins to orbit around you, whether or not you wear the crown. That is the Machiavellian path. That is the monster's discipline. Power that is loud is fragile. Power that must shout is insecure. Power that constantly declares itself is already trembling at the core. The monster mentality understands this truth. The strongest power is invisible. The most unshakable control is the one no one notices until it is too late. Think of the spider. It does not roar. It does not chase. It spins its web in silence. The prey does not even realize it is trapped until the struggle begins. And by then, escape is impossible. That is invisible power. Machiavelli knew this well. He wrote that rulers must often hide their strength behind appearances. Let others believe they are safe. Let them think they are in control. While in reality, every step they take is within your design. That is how empires are maintained, not with constant force, but with carefully veiled control. So let us dig into this fifth transformation, the discipline of invisible power. First, understand why noise is weakness. When someone constantly talks about their achievements, their strength, their superiority, they are begging for validation. They need the world to recognize them, because without recognition, they feel small. That is not power. That is desperation. True monsters do not need applause. They do not need recognition. They do not need the world to know. Their control is quiet. Their moves are subtle. Their presence is enough. Look at nature. The ocean does not explain itself, yet it swallows ships. The storm does not ask for respect, yet it bends trees. The mountain does not shout, yet it dwarfs everything around it. This is the energy of invisible power, undeniable, silent, immovable. So how do you cultivate this? Step 1. Master silence. Silence terrifies people more than noise. Why? Because silence forces others to fill the gap. They reveal themselves. They overtalk. They overexplain. They expose their weaknesses, while you reveal nothing. The less you say, the more they wonder what you are thinking. The more they wonder, the more control you have. Step 2. Master timing. Power is not about constant action. It is about decisive action. If you act all the time, people adapt. They expect you. They learn your patterns. But if you wait, if you move only when it matters, your strike lands with 10 times the weight. People remember it because it is rare, sharp, undeniable. Step 3. Master presence. You don't need to dominate every room with noise. Dominate with stillness. Walk in with calm. Look people in the eye without rushing to speak. Let them feel the weight of your presence. You don't demand respect, you make them feel it. This is the paradox. The quieter your power, the louder its effect. The less you need to show, the more people believe you hold. Let's apply this in life. At work, the loudest person is rarely the one with true control. It is the quiet one, the one whose words are rare but final, the one who never needs to argue but always seems to get what they want. That is invisible power. In relationships, the one who panics, pleads, and argues the most has already lost control. The one who remains calm, unreadable, centered. That is the one who silently holds the upper hand. Now ask yourself, do you chase noise or do you command silence? Do you constantly announce yourself or do you let your presence do the speaking? The monster mentality is allergic to unnecessary noise. It is not insecure. It does not need validation. It does not chase applause. It is content in silence, because silence itself becomes a weapon. Machiavelli warned rulers never to exhaust themselves in endless displays of power. If you use force constantly, people grow numb to it. But if you reserve it, if you let them relax, believe they are safe, then when you strike, the shock is devastating. This is why the discipline of invisible power matters, because power that is hidden is more frightening than power that is obvious. People can prepare for what they see. They cannot prepare for what they don't. Think of it this way. A lion roaring on the hill is terrifying, yes, but at least you know where it is. A lion you cannot see, a lion you cannot hear, that lion owns the entire field. No one moves without fear. That is the power you must cultivate. But invisible power is not just about hiding. It is also about patience. You cannot control if you are always rushing. You cannot dominate if you are desperate to be seen. The monster waits. The monster allows others to reveal their weaknesses. The monster knows that the less energy you waste, the more strength you have when the moment comes. This is discipline. To restrain yourself when your ego screams to be recognized. To remain silent when you want to shout. To wait when you want to strike. That restraint is not weakness. It is supreme control. It is proof that you are already above your enemies. And here's the ultimate lesson. Invisible power is not about doing less. It is about choosing precisely. Every word, every move, every silence becomes deliberate. You are never careless. You are never impulsive. You are always composed, calculated, cold. When you reach this state, people begin to feel your presence even when you are absent. They wonder what you're planning. They second-guess themselves before moving against you. They fear your silence more than others' aggression. That is invisible power. Quiet, patient, heavy, untouchable. This is the fifth step in forging the monster mentality. To control without noise, to dominate without display, to terrify without lifting your voice. Because in the end, the most dangerous monster is not the one screaming in the light. it is the one watching silently in the shadows. We have walked through the steps, breaking the chains of approval, killing the prey mentality, mastering disguise, ruling without a crown, controlling without noise. Now we arrive at the final transformation, the moment where all of these merge into one identity, the moment you stop playing at strength and you become the monster. What is a monster? In the ordinary world, people fear monsters because they are different, because they stand outside the boundaries of normal behavior, because they cannot be controlled. That is exactly why the monster mentality is necessary. To be untouchable, you must no longer play by the rules of the ordinary. You must terrify weakness. You must silence manipulation. You must rise beyond fragile emotions into unshakable discipline. Machiavelli never spoke of monsters in these words, but his lessons build the same image. He taught rulers to detach, to be feared more than loved, to master appearance, to dominate fortune. Strip away the poetry and you are left with the same conclusion. Those who stand apart from the herd rule the herd. So let us weave all the threads together. A monster mentality begins with detachment. You are no longer chained by the need for approval. You do not beg for validation. You do not bend under guilt. This is step one, emotional armor. Without it, every insult cuts, every betrayal bleeds you, every rejection weakens you. But with it, nothing pierces. You feel, but you are not owned by feeling. That is the foundation. Then you add the predator's mind. You stop hesitating. You stop asking, what if? And start asking, where is the weakness? Where is the opening? Where is the prize? You learn to wait, study, then strike with precision. No more frozen prey. No more wasted years waiting for permission. You move first. You move sharp. You move without apology. Now you master the mask. You build your psychological disguise. You become unreadable, untouchable, mysterious. No one knows what you feel. No one knows your next move. No one knows your limits. They circle you with uncertainty. And in their doubt, you control them. Then you rule without a crown. You no longer chase titles. You no longer wait for recognition. You become the gravitational force wherever you stand. People follow not because you demand it, but because you radiate control, stability, certainty. You carry yourself as if the crown was already yours, and in time, it becomes yours. And finally, you discipline your power into silence. No more noise, no more desperate displays, no more wasted energy. You speak less, you move less. But when you act, it is decisive. When you strike, it is final. When you speak, it carries weight. Your silence terrifies more than the screams of others. That is invisible power, the rarest and most devastating form. Now combine them all. This is the monster mentality. The man or woman who cannot be broken by insult, who cannot be manipulated by emotion, who cannot be predicted by rivals, who cannot be ignored by the crowd, who cannot be defeated by noise. This is the being who rules without asking, who dominates without display, who terrifies without effort. The monster is not heartless. The monster is not reckless. The monster is disciplined. The monster feels, but chooses when to reveal. The monster desires, but never lets desire control. The monster strikes, but only when the strike will end the game. And here is the truth. Most people will never reach this state. They are too chained to approval, too addicted to comfort, too desperate to be liked. They will spend their lives as prey, complaining about predators, resenting the strong and calling them monsters because the truth is too painful. They chose weakness. But you are not most people. You are here. You are listening. You are searching. You are sharpening yourself against these words. That alone separates you from the herd. The final step, then, is commitment. To practice every day. To catch yourself when you slip back into weakness. To kill hesitation when it rises. To seal your emotions when they leak. To remind yourself constantly, you are not prey. You are not a beggar. You are not ordinary. Every choice becomes a test. Do I act like the herd, or do I act like the monster? Do I react with weakness, or do I respond with control? Do I waste noise, or do I command silence? Discipline, repetition, self-mastery, these are the tools. They are not glamorous, they are not loud, they are not celebrated, but they build something more valuable than anything else. Unshakable mentality. And when that mentality is complete, you no longer chase power. You are power. You no longer demand respect. You embody it. You no longer fear betrayal. You expect it. You absorb it. You remain unbroken. This is the monster mentality. Machiavelli would call it the spirit of the prince. I call it the unshakable mind. The mind that rules not because it has to, but because it cannot be ruled. So from this day forward, stop waiting, stop doubting, stop hiding. The monster is already inside you, starved, silenced, suffocating under weakness. Feed it, free it, forge it. And when the world looks at you, they will no longer see a victim. They will no longer see someone fragile. They will no longer see someone easy to manipulate. They will see what they fear most, someone untouchable, someone who cannot be broken. They will see the monster,